So welcome to First Fridays this morning. Appreciate seeing all of your smiling faces. So I'll give you just a minute to make your way to your seats. Thank you for coming. Sunny morning. We've had a lot of First Fridays where we've survived through ice and snow and sleet and all sorts of fun stuff out there. Thank you for coming. Thanks for those who are joining us online this morning. So many of you may not know that First Fridays has been in existence for 5 years. So we are 5 years old. And many of you may not know the history of First Fridays, how we got started. We don't have time to go into it, but I do want to recognize a couple of special people this morning. Jim Johnson, our founder of First Fridays. And Jerry Johnson, where are you, Jerry?
Still at the door. Welcoming.
Yep. Yep. And Jerry Johnson. Let's give Jim and Jerry the Johnson brothers. And so today feels like a reunion. How many of you, this is your First Fridays? Welcome. Yeah, thanks for coming. Jerry, you know. So we have invited our First Fridays speakers that we've had for the last 5 years to join us this morning. And so without these folks, a lot of people ask us, what is your secret sauce? What is the key to your success? Well, it's really just God's blessing, first of all. But secondly, Jim and Jerry's efforts to make First Fridays happen throughout the years, and our wonderful speakers. We'd like to give them some recognition this morning and just show our appreciation. So if you have been a First Fridays speaker with First Fridays Fort Wayne in the last 5 years, please stand up. We want to recognize who you are. Thank you. I wish we had time to just have you go around and say something, but yeah, the folks who stood, go up to them and ask them what their experience was like. Many of you know, many of you recognize them. So, I'm going to turn it over to Cassie, who's going to introduce our First Fridays speaker.
We need to add one more person to that list today. So it's my distinct privilege to introduce this morning Amylynn Graf. Amylynn is on the board here at First Fridays, and all of those amazing graphics that you see online for our social media, she is in charge of all of that, which we are so thankful for. Amylynn has a passion for leadership development here in Fort Wayne. She has her Bachelor of Science from Indiana Tech and her MBA from IU. She has over 10 years of experience in human resources, process creation, and improvement. She enjoys reading, baking, camping, and playing outdoors with her husband, Robert, and daughters, which one of her daughters is here this morning, so thanks for being a fan club. Whoop, whoop. Also, if you have not had the chance to meet Amylynn, she is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the HR world, especially recruiting. So if you have the chance, stick around afterwards, talk with Amylynn, and please help me welcome her this morning.
Well, thank you, Cassie. So when I was asked to come and speak at First Fridays, I knew exactly what I was going to talk about because it's the only thing I know, right? Is embracing the crazy. Nobody here has any crazy going on in their lives, right? Past couple of years. All right. Well, first things first, this is my family, and I wouldn't be able to do anything without them. So like Cassie said, my husband and one of my daughters are here. We have a lot of girls in our house, in case you haven't noticed, including a pair of twins, which is actually where this was kind of thought up. I am a recovering control freak. I don't know about any of you. But when we were told we were having twins, everything we knew went out the window. I don't know how much you know about having twins, but there are special birthing procedures. There's the financial aspect. There's all of that. And I just realized that this is something that I cannot control. So about a year after having the twins, I was diagnosed with POTS, which is a chronic condition. So that means that my body doesn't do what a lot of your bodies do normally. I have trouble with temperature regulation, balance, just all of those things. So I had to learn to just embrace that as this is what it is and live my best life with it. So let's first talk about what embracing the crazy isn't. It isn't floating through life, right? This is not just letting life happen to you. It would be great if we could do that, but normally you're not going to get the best results. This is not going and finding unnecessary risk. And it's not doing the same thing over and over to a different result. So Webster's dictionary defines crazy as a mentally deranged person, which we're obviously not talking about today, or wild and uncontrolled, which is a little bit closer to what we want. But for today's purposes, we're going to say that crazy is chaos or unplanned changes in your life that you cannot control. Can we all agree on that for now? Perfect. So what does embracing the crazy mean? Embracing the crazy means being able to use your energy to fuel the best possible outcome when there are unplanned changes. I think it's important that we look at the why. Why is this important? Why do we need to embrace the crazy? First of all, this is going to lead you to your purpose. I firmly believe that God's plan for us is higher than the plan we have for ourselves. And in order to get there, we need to be inside the crazy in situations and circumstances that we cannot control or would not normally put ourselves in. Performance. The crazy doesn't go away when you ignore it, right? Have we all tried that? I've tried that. It doesn't work. Yeah. So in order to perform at our best, we need to embrace that as the situation at hand. It also brings us peace. We cannot have peace if it is dependent on our circumstances. We also take back our power when we look at the circumstance as it is and embrace that crazy. The crazy does not lose its complexity until you accept it as it is. And then presence. If you are so busy fighting against your circumstances, you cannot be present in that moment with the people that are around you. And I would argue that the difference between a mediocre leader and a great leader is the ability to lead your team in a difficult time. And every one of you here is a leader. Whether you lead your family, whether you lead at work, or whether you lead in the community, you are a leader. So let's talk about the different types of crazy. There are 3 types of crazy, right? There's the good kind. You get a promotion at work that you weren't expecting, right? A better outcome is possible. There's crazy different. Think of going on vacation and the expressway is closed down. You're going to have to take an alternate route, but you can still get to that destination. And then there's the bad crazy, which is more of what we're talking about today. This is where the planned outcome is no longer possible. So let's talk about the 4 steps to get you there, and then we'll go in depth in these. Number 1, you need to find your people. Number 2, you need to acknowledge your circle of control. Number 3, you need to look at your options. And number 4, you need to take the steps to get there and give yourself some space and grace. So let's talk about finding your people. I believe that there are 5 different kinds of people that you need in order to get you through these crazy times. Number 1, who tends to be my husband, who has the patience of a saint, is that person that's going to talk you off the ledge. When we get into these situations, our first reaction is normally panic, right? The world is ending, and what are we going to do? You need somebody that can talk you off of that ledge. Number 2, you need someone to mourn with you. And this is something that we often overlook, but that planned or hoped for circumstance is no longer possible. So we need some time to mourn that. Someone to remind you of the times you succeeded. You need to build that confidence in order to go ahead and get yourself in the mindset to come up with solutions. You know that annoying person that every time you tell them what you did, they say, hey, but why didn't you do it this way? You need that person in your life. This is that person that's going to help you walk through some options. And then you need someone to play devil's advocate to help you determine the best route to go. So let's look at our circles of control. And I was told by Brian Stein last month that as long as I give credit where credit is due, I can plagiarize as much as I want. So this comes from Stephen Covey's Circles of Control and Influence. And there are 3 circles here, and they're probably not in the order that you would like. The small one is things that you have absolute control over. The second one are the things that you can influence. And then the third one is what you have no control over. So let's look at what this means. What you have absolute control over. Your second plus thoughts. And I say this because that first one is a freebie, right? That's a gut reaction and you don't necessarily have control over it. But everything that comes after, you have control over. Your mindset or outlook. For those of you that haven't read Carol Dweck's mindset book, it's a great one for this. But it talks about growth mindset and keeping positive. And then your actions or choices, I think is pretty self-explanatory. But every action you take, you have absolute control over. So your next one is going to be your circle of influence. You can influence how others may react to the situation. Have you ever been in a room where everybody is panicking? Maybe a project deadline was moved up. And then you see the one person who's not, and someone goes, "Why aren't you panicking? This is awful." And they say, "It just is what it is." And you can feel the level of anxiety in that room come down. That's the person that you want to be because that's how you're going to influence that. You can influence the success of the team. The sooner you start working on your next options, the better your team is going to be set up for success. And then the outcome. So things you have no control over are others' participation or contribution. You cannot force somebody else to participate in anything. You can threaten them, you can try to bribe them, but whether or not they actually participate is up to them. Some of your situations are things that happen to you. You get a diagnosis, you lose your job. These are things that you couldn't control. And then everything else. I know, it sounds like bad news on a Friday, right? So Brian Tracy said, leaders think and talk about solutions, followers think and talk about problems. So let's go ahead and let's look at our options. Number one, before you start looking at options, you have to accept the situation. Before we can embrace it, we need to accept it. You need to determine the best outcome. That's where you're going to get your ideas person in here, right? They're going to help you out. You don't have to do this in a vacuum. Take the steps to get there and break them down into easily attainable steps. And keep in mind that failure to make a decision is a decision in itself and rarely leads to the best possible outcome. So let's talk a little bit about space and grace. And when I say this, this is what I mean. So space is physical, mental, or emotional time away. And grace is undeserved, unmerited, unearned favor. So when I talk about space, I'm talking about the mental and or physical detachment from stimuli needed to recharge and get an objective view. This can look like meditation or prayer. It can look like physically getting away to your safe place. It can be getting the team away from the problem together. They need that space too. Taking a time out with your people or your person. Or doing something you enjoy. Notice I didn't say doing something you're good at. If you like to draw stick figure it up, right? That's okay. So when it comes to grace, St. Augustine says, what grace is meant to do is to help good people not to escape their sufferings, but to bear them with a stout heart, with a fortitude that finds strength in faith. So I don't know where your faith lies, but mine lies in Jesus Christ. And I believe that he has a plan that is bigger than mine. I also believe that we need to give ourselves grace. Number one, spoiler alert, none of us are perfect, right? Number two, it needs to be extended to yourself just as you would extend it to other people. And we need to forgive ourselves for what we've done in the past. Now, I don't know about you all, but when I have trouble forgiving myself, I find that most of the time it is because I am expecting my present self from my past self. And that's not fair. My present self has more knowledge, has more experience, and has more objectivity than my past self had. So stop expecting your present self from your past self. And then celebrate the small wins. You might not get to where you thought you were going to get to, but you know what? Given the circumstances, you're doing pretty good. Everyone made it here on a Friday morning at 8 a.m. Give yourself some credit. I want you to learn something new and meet someone new. So I want you to turn to one of your neighbors, preferably someone you have not met yet, and tell them, what are you resisting today? And what is the next step you need to take in order to embrace that crazy? Go ahead. And then what steps do you need to take in order to get there? All right. Was everyone able to find a buddy? Were you good? Good. Thank you. I know, now I gotta rein them in, right? All right, everyone has their accountability buddy now. Right, like in middle school, right? Thank you. Thank you all for participating. That was great. So you now all have an accountability buddy. So make sure you exchange information at the end, right? No? No? I just want to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from J.H. Hard. And she embraced the chaos as it painted her life with purpose. And insert he if you're male. But I truly believe that if you put these steps into process, you will find your higher calling and your higher purpose. Questions?